Some stories make it to the headlines with big titles and bold moves, but others, they rise silently through early morning juggle, self doubt, bedtime lullabies, late night learnings. Hello, world. Welcome to yet another episode of our podcast where we shine light on women who have built their extraordinary career and one real moment at a time. So, ready to hit start? Let's power up. Today's guest, Rajalakshmi Sivanand, Raji to most. She's a force who has actually grown from a hands on recruiter to the head of people and culture, worked across most world's most respected tech organizations. She didn't build her career with a fixed map, but it is through momentum. One decision, one risk, and one conversation at a time. From operations to the org structure, hiring talent to basically moving talent across continents. She has done it all. And today, we will unpack the story behind it. It's a pleasure to have you, Raji, with us today. Welcome to our podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me here. It's a pleasure to be here as part of the Power Up series. So let's do it.
Yes, let's get started. So Raji, let's start maybe with your roots. How was your childhood, and what kind of girl you were growing up before these titles shaped you?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. If I were just to summarize it, I would say humble beginnings, right? I was an 80s kid. So obviously, at that point in time, structure, discipline,
Yeah.
organization, the deep rooted values, all of this was paramount.
Right.
And it was very neatly embedded in the childhood, in your day to day behavior and all of that. And being from a South Indian conservative family, this was just part of our life,
Yeah.
right? And our parents both were working, my parents, and they insisted that we should wake up early, right? And not because we would just while away time. Fortunately for us, at that time there was no mobile phones.
Yeah.
So the only thing that we could do is revise the portion if there's an exam, or read books, or just get started with your day.
Yeah.
Right? And not just that, we would also help our parents in the day-to-day course. Everyone had their own set
Set of
duties.
things. Yeah.
So we had to do all of this and study well. So that was no bargain,
Yeah.
it was not negotiable. So I think things like that kind of brought in a lot more structure, a lot more discipline, just by the way of life.
Yeah.
And also, my parents focused a lot on culture, and not to lose those values and all
Right.
that. So we were three of us, three siblings. I have two older brothers who were rock star academic performers, right? So from a very early stage, the bar was very high for
Yeah.
me. So there was too much pressure, I would say, but it was also very inspiring,
Right.
especially to see all their achievements and to think that, I should probably do something
Yeah.
better. I should probably carve out a niche for myself because they have a set trajectory, right?
Right.
So that kind of thinking originated probably from there. That's the genesis, I would say. They created that genesis. And, learning an instrument or singing Carnatic music, all of this was part of life.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
for some reason, my parents always thought that it's important to have an extracurricular activity other than just the
The
college,
the
school
general
education.
academics. Yeah.
It kind of developed in us. It was in our DNA, I think. Now when I think about it, I'm so thankful for them. At that
Right.
time, I would think, why don't they take us to a park or
Yeah.
what? But now I'm so thankful because it just kind of sits with us.
Yeah.
And the focus that, we experience when we are reading a book is amazing. So that's how I grew up. Of course, there was a lot of pressure. Of course, there was a lot of structure, discipline. You had to listen to them and all of that. But I think all of those kind of sow the seeds for what I am,
Exactly.
who I am,
Yeah.
how I think, and all of that.
Yeah.
So very humble. For me, they taught me Carnatic music and all
Wow.
of that.
Yeah.
And, somewhere, all these things that when I think about it now, the fact very quietly we used to just show up.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
there was no going back,
Hmm.
So the discipline to say, okay, I'm not giving up.
Hmm.
There is this class that I have to attend. So you quietly show up to this
Yeah,
class.
yeah.
So things like that, even now, when I think about it years later,
Hmm.
when there is a big conference or presentation and, you have these tutors and you don't want to, you can always skip
Yeah,
that, right?
exactly.
And I'm
Yeah.
like, no, let me just show up.
Yeah.
That consistency came from there,
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as you called out, the seeds actually helped you to do even all the things that you're doing right now. Gave a
Absolutely.
structure,
Yeah.
lot of discipline, and at the same
Totally.
time staying close to the culture.
Yes. The
Yeah.
foundation was like pretty strong.
Yeah. Cool. So moving to your academics, I know you actually chose I would say a different stream, something which your parents also was not expecting you to basically choose.
Yes.
So how did that go through?
Yeah, so this was again that time
Yeah.
where, there's a set trajectory, right?
Yes.
Like, we, fortunately for us, I think
Hmm.
I would say, we were really good with math.
Hmm.
It came naturally, I
Natural.
think.
Yeah.
But then science was an altogether a different subject for me, for whatever reasons,
Yeah.
right? So, there was a time when I had to make the choice, especially after the 10th, right? So whether to take, and the standard route was, because my brothers had already taken it, MPC, and then you do your engineering, and then
Right.
you go to the US for masters, and
Yeah.
it was already set.
Yeah.
But then here I am, after 10th, I got really good marks in math as well. I didn't want to let it go, but at the same time, I knew I'm not going to sign up for something that I'm not good at, that I don't enjoy
Yeah,
studying.
exactly.
Right? So that was the time I had to, face my dad, who was until then, for us a terror figure, right? Like the head of the family,
Yeah.
and you can't back answer, you can't question them. 14-year-old,
Yeah, exactly.
with all
Yeah.
those apprehensions in your
Yeah.
mind. But I had to make that choice. My mom was a little more, I think, flexible.
Flexible.
She's like,
Yeah.
do what you think is good for
Yeah.
you and all
Yeah.
of that. And so, but I had to face those fears, right?
Yeah.
I had to go stand up, make my pitch,
Yeah.
and then say why I think I don't fit in the MPC bracket. I still don't want to let go math, because
Exactly.
for
Math,
him,
yeah.
you have to be a good student, you have to study well, math
Yeah.
is important, and it'll carve out your life and all of that. So I went and I said I still would want to stick to math, but not science. So how about if I choose MPC, because MEC, because MPC is not my cup of tea,
Yeah.
and this is what I want to do. I think that is the first time my rebellious nature
Yes. Came out.
came into action.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I didn't want to follow the standard approach.
Yeah.
But I didn't think so much too. I
Yeah.
didn't know so much at that time. All that I knew was I wanted to do something different.
Yeah.
I knew I wouldn't be good at MPC. And I knew I want to do something that I really would enjoy
Yes.
doing.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So I somehow convinced him. He sat over it. I mean, he slept over it for almost a day or two. And then he said, okay, fine, you should pick what you think
Yeah.
you want to do. Because of like the foundation, I
Yes.
said,
Yes.
I have a dual master's degree, I have a dual bachelor's
Wow.
degree.
Yeah.
And for me, now I can study without the pressure of writing an exam and
Exactly.
scoring
Yeah.
marks,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I feel when you do that, you will actually excel in it,
Yeah.
right? So, and then I picked up psychology too. I've learned coaching. I coach a lot of people now, something that I really enjoy. You'd find me in my elements when I'm a
Yeah.
coach.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how it shaped up.
Yeah.
So,
So a lot of, I mean, these are very, I would say, different spaces where you have actually mastered, right? Like psychology is altogether very different from what you did with MEC,
yes.
or even the regular, I would say, the regular curriculum, right? Psychology
Yeah.
is very, very different.
Yeah.
Moving next, I think after your masters,
Yeah.
so how did things unfold for you
Yeah.
towards basically kickstarting your professional journey? How did that unfold?
Sure.
Yeah.
So the choices, obviously that we make will shape up, right?
Yeah.
I also made some mistakes and all of that. So I did pick up some jobs just for the sake of it. And then, of course, I got married. I had to move to another country. So we were in Oman for some time.
Okay.
And then I had a child. We came back eventually. And then I had decided that, now I need to do something that I'm really passionate about,
Yeah.
even if it's going to take some time.
Yeah.
because I want to enjoy it. You know, I
Right.
don't want that career trajectory to go haywire. You know, for something that I stood up, I should at least carve
Yeah.
my path.
Yeah.
So on a weekend, you know, and we were looking at that time. Deccan Chronicle was one of the famous
Yeah.
newspaper, and in the classified section there was this ad
Hmm.
for a recruiter. But it was not a normal ad. It was very unique, and you know, it called out for a recruiter. But then they said, "If only you had this skill set," and things like that. So that got my attention, and my husband and I looked at each other and said, I should give it a try."
Yeah.
But this was in high tech city,
Yeah.
you know, and all the while my base has been Secunderabad, you
Yes.
know, Tarnaka, and all of that. So it was an altogether different world for me, and I didn't know much about, you know, this side of the city.
Correct.
So my husband and I, we didn't have a car at that time, so we came in a bike for the interview. So the job ad appeared on a Saturday.
Yes, on a weekend.
Yeah, on a weekend. I still remember. It's
Yeah.
quite vivid in my mind,
Yeah.
you know, 2002, December 14th, a Saturday.
You remember that?
Because that changed my career
Yes,
forever.
yes.
And, you know, it changed in such a way that I now feel that, you know, some blessings come to you at certain point in time. You just have to be open to that opportunity, right? So the ad came on a Saturday. So without wasting time, we immediately set off because it was a 1.5 hours journey.
Right.
Then I came, sat down to be interviewed. Yeah, it said walk-in interviews.
Okay, it was a walk-in.
Yeah, walk-in.
Yeah.
So we walked in,
Yeah.
like it said. So I walked in, and the interviewer came in, and he said, "Okay, let's get into the interview room." He was the MD of the company, right? And he said, "Have you done this before?" I said, "Yeah, I've done this before." And you know, he was a complete technical guy. He didn't know what questions to ask a recruiter. He asked the basic questions. We covered it all, and then he said, "Okay, I'll give you an Excel, and I want you to do some data analysis on that." It seemed a little strange for me, but and he said, "Do you know macros?" And I had not used macros at that time. In fact, MS Office was very new, right?
Yeah.
Just then, you know, MS Office and all of that came into light. So I said, "I don't know. I've not used it. But if you could tell me what you want me to achieve, you know, I'll see what I can do because I'm good at it." Is what I kept telling him. I'm really good at it. And he said, "Okay." So he gave me an Excel. There was already, you know, some data in it. And he said, "This is what I want you to do." I looked at the data and I said, "You don't need a macro to do this. I can do it with a simple if statement." So he's like, "You can write an if statement?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I can write an if statement. You know, I may not be as technical as you are, but yes." I said, "It's so simple. You don't need to complicate it." I think I was too young to even say that. And he's like, "Yeah, that's true."
You were true and honest.
Yeah, very honest. I didn't know that I shouldn't be even like that. So which is why I keep telling everyone, bring your authentic self, right? So I said, you know, if we use a macro, it probably will complicate it, but a simple if statement did it for me, right? And he was quite impressed, and there were no other questions after that.
Good.
I went back and told them exactly this, and they were like, you know, "Why do you have to say this? Why you know, and all of that." And I somehow felt, you know, the vibes were very good. And on a Sunday, the next day, I get a call saying I'm selected, and they wanted me to join ASAP, right? So, and I said, "I can do Monday," right? So I attended the interview on a Saturday, got the confirmation on Sunday,
started on
Monday.
Wow.
That was the turning point in my life.
I think that actually started the career trajectory for you.
Yeah.
And the rest is, I would say, history maybe. So
the rest only kind of kept adding
onto
but
it.
came with a lot of challenges too,
Exactly.
right? So and when I joined there, my dad was asking, you know, "Okay, you've started your journey. You're saying you've joined that company. Where's the offer letter? Where's the appointment letter?" And I'm like, "They didn't give it to me." And he said, "You should go and ask your boss." And he was like the managing director of the company.
MD,
the others would hesitate to even approach him. Right? And for me, it didn't matter because I had to go back and answer my father.
Exactly.
Right? So I wasn't dreading anyone else other than him. So I said, "I need an appointment letter because it's been a week since I started." And he's like, "In fact, we've not given it to anyone else. Do you know how to make one?"
Oh, okay.
And I said, "I don't know, but I can learn to make one."
Right?
And he said, "Okay, why don't you make one and send it to me? And I'll give you some contacts that you can send it to, and they'll vet it for you." Right? So I made an appointment letter, sent it to the legal team, right? And they said, "Yeah, this is fine." And they added a little more to it, and they said, "You can start using it." And my boss said, "Now, not only for you, print this appointment letter for all the people who joined before you." Right? So it didn't seem like a burden for me.
Yeah.
It just seemed like, okay, this is a great opportunity. I've learned
Exactly.
something
Yeah.
new, right?
Yeah.
And my mom, because she was also working, she always said one thing, right? Find out what's the biggest pain point of your
Yeah.
manager
Yeah.
and you do it,
Yes. Yes.
right? It just eases off a lot of load on them, and for you, it's a big learning,
Yeah.
right? So it stayed with me for a very long time, and maybe that is why I didn't hesitate when they said make an offer letter, and then they said, we'll need bigger space. So every
finding
time I
a
went back
workplace.
with
Okay.
with a issue or a
Yeah.
problem, and he would say find a solution for it.
Yeah.
So maybe the way I taught also changed, because I would then go to him saying I already spoke to the landlord for the
Wow.
second time.
Yeah.
Right, for the first time he said go speak to the landlord and get the lease done and all that. And frankly, I didn't know anything about
Yeah.
it at that
Yeah.
time. That was the first time I was hearing about it. And so I went. I don't know with what. Um, I would say how much of daringness that I had. I don't know with what confidence I went, because I didn't know anything what I can speak about a lease
Yeah.
to the gentleman. But I spoke,
Yeah.
and then we signed up an entire floor.
Okay.
That was
So
the
you
first
you
time.
went, you have actually, so this is a very, I would say, in right from the beginning, you have kind of like gone beyond what is just expected out of your
Yeah,
role.
yeah.
Because you started as a recruiter,
Recruiter.
and then taking care of these additional responsibilities, like
Operations,
exactly,
leases.
operations, then
Yeah.
finding a facility.
And at that point in time, it didn't seem like a barrier. Maybe that was what made the big difference.
Yeah.
Because I did not perceive it as why is it my issue?
Exactly.
Why is it my
Yeah.
problem? In
Done.
fact, that is
Yeah.
what I would say. You don't have to fit in.
Correct. Yeah.
There's no mold that is made. It's
Yeah.
probably made by people in their minds, right? So
Yeah.
there's no mold. So you don't need to fit in. You can still be extremely traditional in your approach
Yeah.
and be extremely modern in your
Yes.
thinking.
Yes.
Right? You could be very disciplined but very creative.
Creative. Yeah.
So
yeah.
you could be very professional but very personal
Yes.
too.
Yes.
So it all blends in really
Yeah.
well. And
Yeah.
it did get me into a lot of trouble as well, because over time I was also doing budgeting, something that I never knew, I never did before. And of course I made mistakes.
Yeah.
But the fact that, I had to go to the CFO and stand up and say, I got some numbers wrong and I am here, but this is not going to increase by too much, but we'll make up for it here. But the fact that, I could go and accept that I made a mistake, this is new, I have not done it. I think you should have that self-belief.
Yeah.
Take that first step.
Yes.
You don't
Yeah.
need to have everything sorted and then you get into it. Not necessarily, but take that plunge.
Right.
Have that self, what you say, belief in your
Yeah.
mind. Be truthful to yourself.
Yes.
You can also ask when you don't know.
Right.
You should ask when you
Yeah.
don't know. And then, go with that confidence.
Yeah.
I think that clarity and confidence will
Yeah.
eventually
And I think
come.
the other piece is also the genuine efforts that you're putting. You're not doing it for, the purpose of getting some incentive out of, like, the way you went beyond your roles.
Yeah.
It was to basically help and
True.
get over the pain points,
Yeah.
as taught by your mom as well.
Exactly.
So I think that honesty in itself actually works out.
Yeah,
most of
like
the
I
time.
said, it did get me in trouble a lot of times.
Yeah.
I had to face it, but
Right.
that was fine, and I still remember we were creating a compensation strategy, right? So I had to work with the chartered accountants,
Yeah.
but eventually as a head of HR, you have to present it. right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So for that, I was in the office till like 2 or 2:30 in the night.
Okay.
I didn't know that I was sitting for that long
Yeah.
because I
You were
needed to
so,
get it done.
yeah,
The
engrossed
next day
in-
we were launching it.
Yeah.
And so went back home, and my father's like, this is not the time that good children come home. And
Yeah.
I didn't want to argue. I knew, but then I also knew that I needed to get this done. And I
Exactly.
wanted to do it really
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
Right? My husband, of course, was a strong support. And he's like, I know. We'll talk
What's-
about it later because
Yeah.
tomorrow is a big day,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Let the launch happen and
Yeah.
then we'll see. Maybe you need people to help you and
Yeah,
all of that.
yeah.
So, but things like that. So, but it's important to know what you're doing.
Exactly.
That being truthful to yourself,
Yeah.
that's the key.
Yeah.
Even now when I think about it, I would just close my eyes and say, is this going to make me happy or no?
Yeah.
Not others.
Yeah.
Right? When I do an interview, I would always say, I should be happy when I interview someone. I do a lot of these leadership interviews,
Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah.
So I want to create such a good environment for them that not just them, I should also feel
You
happy
should,
about talking to
exactly.
them,
Yeah,
right? So things like that, I think those things shaped up pretty early in life.
Yeah.
And nobody taught. I had to carve it out, learn some very bad lessons. But yeah, here I am.
Did you had like any mentor along the way?
That's the biggest, I would say. I'm in gratitude for that.
Yeah.
The first company that I worked for, Some Total Systems, was filled with such geniuses, I would say. Right from my MD that I was talking about to the head of HR at that time. All of them were so supportive. I think I learned a lot by just observing them, right? I learned a lot by how they spoke to others. And tremendous, I think great blend of empathy and logic. Extremely brainy people, but extremely empathetic. So that set a very high benchmark for me, and I was always looking up to them too. And one thing about me that they even till now they say, have you stopped asking? I ask so many questions.
The curiosity is like that.
Alive, very much alive. And that's what they say, keep that curiosity on always, because I've learned a lot from that.
So, Raji, what was the next challenge after Sum Total? How did it unfold for you?
Yeah. So the foundation was laid, and very strong foundation was laid at Sum Total, and then I moved on to Pega.
Okay.
Again, I was headhunted, and went and attended the interview. Very interesting interview also, with a lot of interesting people that I later enjoyed working with. I think one thing that stood out, which they later told me, was that probably in the list of all the interview candidates that came, I was the only one who went in a sari. Again, that breaking the mold kind of a thing, right? So, and again, was very authentic. I spoke about certain aspects that that really impressed them, especially because it was an engineering company, right? Complete R&D. And they were quite happy to know an HR who could speak technical language, right? And then I had the MD interview, and I told him, but then I think the subject and the substance was what mattered, at the end. So, and then I joined Pega months later. It was great because we could set up everything. And
so
we
Pega
had
was setting up in India that time?
Office in India, in Hyderabad.
Okay. I attended like a couple of these times.
Job fairs and all that. But for a company to do that was a little different.
Correct.
Right? But we had to think big. So again, it was very ambitious. Again, extremely risky and challenging. Because if the job fair wasn't successful, I could have probably not been there. Right? But then I took it up as a challenge. Saying, I know India is a hub of talent. I know we will find talent, right? But then let's gear up towards that. So we conceived a plan and started to focus on it. Initially, there was not as much trust. The only person probably who was working vehemently on that was me and my team. And but then over a period of time, the momentum built up, and it's built up so much that everyone was investing. In fact, the engineering team created a software where we could conduct tests for 100 people at one time. Right? We did performance testing on it. We did literally everything on it. And we did a aptitude test and everything that we can filter out people. So everyone. So it became a project for everyone. We wanted to be successful, right? Initially, it was just the HR. And then slowly, everyone came together. The heads, where we were sitting and having these brainstorming sessions on how do we manage the crowd and all that. But we knew one thing, right? That we wanted to make great offers. And then there were some challenges from the US too, saying, this is ridiculous. How can you call so many people? It's not possible and all of that. But then I put my job at risk, and I said, no, this is how it needs to be done, right? If we have to hire this number and hire it in this short period of frame, we have to do this, right? So it didn't go well initially, but I think over a period of time, looking at the momentum and all of that, even the HR business partner from the US came to India to help me. So we called out,
must have been like the first use case of its own.
Totally. This was talked about everywhere later.
Correct.
Right, and we called close to 1,000 people. Even we flew people from, and these were already pre-selected, meaning they had passed the test, right? Not the interviews.
Correct.
So they qualified in the
Yeah.
exam.
Yeah.
And so we called almost 1,000 people to Taj Krishna.
Okay.
And we had planned how the interviews are going to be,
Yeah.
how many people will take the
Right.
interviews. It
Deciding
was
the
a
panel, the
great
timing, and
time,
all
yeah,
of those
because
things. Yeah.
almost entire Pega participated in the job fair. Everyone was contributing. So while we did get the results of it, right?
Yeah.
But what was good and passionate was to see everyone contributing
Yeah.
because it was their project,
Right. Right.
And we had to shine.
Yeah.
Pega India had to shine.
Correct.
So we all came together, and close to 1,000 people came. We interviewed more than 800 people that day. Massive. Started early, 7 o'clock, and then went on till 8:30 or
800 in
9.
a day?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we finished. We gave out 87 letter of intents.
Okay.
87
Yeah.
made it through because our bar was very
Very
high.
high. Yeah.
Right? So, and we knew the bar is going to be
Yeah.
high, and we
Yeah.
did all the math
Right.
and all of that. And 83 people were given, 83 people were actually given offers, and they all joined.
Oh.
Our goal was to do 80.
It's 100% conversion actually.
Amazing. And then, we did the big thing, but then we had to also get up for all these people to join us. And we wanted to do a very good job of,
Yeah.
onboarding them and all of that. But, this again was a big challenge. Sometimes when I think about it, I'm like, was it even needed to take that kind of a risk? So why did I have to lay down my job for it, right? But something in me said that's the right thing to do. I shouldn't take a step back because of the challenge, because it was thrown at me, and a lot of people thought it was not possible.
Yeah, and I think this also shows like how you think big, not
Yeah,
just like
probably dream big,
going
think big.
with with what is like laid out. Again, coming back to like how to fit in the things which are already there, rather like build your thing. Yeah.
So don't fit in, and because when nine out of 10 people think that it's not possible, and you're the only one saying it is possible, I can do it, and take it up as a challenge, and then you ultimately do it.
It's
the kind of fulfillment that it gives, saying, it's not because I proved someone wrong, it's because
it's
I
the
took
joy
up the
of
challenge.
basically the joy of getting
it.
this done. Yeah,
Absolutely. So it kind of became a norm, and later on I went on to get a chairman's award for it.
Wow.
But then the journey itself, that 2-3 months, right, was quite disturbing, I would say, because even in the night when I go back home, I'm always thinking about numbers. We wanted to get good talent. We didn't want to compromise on that, which just meant that we had to source more people.
Exactly.
Right. So with all of that, so it was great, and now that that link was established, that people saw that, okay, Raji could do it. Right? So it was important. We brought people in. It's also important to grow them in their careers. And, I think HR, for all the HR leaders and people in the HR community that are listening, we have an ability to grow people.
Yes.
Don't lose it.
Yeah.
Right? We have an ability to carve out programs that can actually shape them, shape their careers. And so I, again, stepped into that. And said, we have this talent. We don't want them to leave. Right? So we said, let's use they're brilliant minds, and we can use their talent elsewhere too. So we created a global mobility program that gave not only the clients what they needed, but our people an ability to go and experience the global world. Right?
So basically, getting
the global
internal
mobility,
transfers.
internal transfers and all of that. So we picked 20, shortlisted 20, and we said, let's do a pilot batch. And then we created a program for a year, what all it would cover and all that. And we sent 20 people to the US initially. It became a super hit. The next time they said, instead of one batch, can you do 2 batches together? So, but then the joy of seeing them succeed, the joy of seeing them represent us and say, I am this and I can do this for you. And the client being very happy and using their technology, seeing them thrive. I think the sense of satisfaction is at a different level when you do all of that. So, so again, came with its own challenges, because we were thinking big. It also required a lot of budgets. It's also required a lot of business leaders to accept it. Right? Because they picked people who are the top talent. And as a manager, you wouldn't want to let go your top talent, right? But then that's important to make sure that the top talent grows and everyone grows and looks at them and says, okay, that's where I want to be. So we did some really radical things, I think. Very stressful, a lot of pressure. But when I think about it, I don't think I would have chosen anything else. The bar was always high.
So Pega actually, I would say it was a journey which actually
Yeah. What have I
was more
learnt?
like upward trajectory for you,
Absolutely.
trying
Yeah.
out new things, getting
Yeah.
the global visibility as well, right?
Totally.
It's
Totally global
yeah,
visibility. And
yeah,
what have I learnt? I charged it up
yeah,
with Pega. I think that was a
exactly.
place.
I think the foundations actually you applied on when you moved
That
to
was like a
Pega.
land of opportunity for
Correct.
me,
Yeah.
and then it was we were able to do a lot many things. Also because I think we were a lot of passionate. We were a bunch of passionate people.
Yeah.
So it did take a lot of effort.
Yeah.
Like I said, the trust, the credibility had to
Credibility.
be
Correct.
established.
Yeah.
For which I had to take certain risks
Yeah.
and face some challenges and all of that.
Right.
But once it was done, I think
Yeah.
there was no looking back.
Yeah. And then what are the, I would say, we are talking about challenges. What are some, I mean, if it's okay for you, are there any examples or any incident that you would want to basically share with us?
That's a great question
Yeah.
because thinking about challenges and the way
Hmm.
you think about it now, years later,
Yeah. Yeah.
is very different. But when you face that adversity, there were situations like that, and there were
Hmm.
certain instances as well,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
kind of kept challenging me.
Hmm.
After that, I did move to other companies and all
Hmm.
of that. So there were certain, times when, because I was a woman,
Yeah.
some people didn't want to report to me.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, so there was a time when a particular function had
Hmm.
to come under
Hmm.
HR.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and at that point in time, one of the person in that team said, I'm almost Raji's age and I don't want to report to her. She's a woman.
Okay.
Right. And I didn't know about this at that point in time. So everyone under the team moved,
Hmm.
except that person. And I think 6 or 8 months later, the team that moved under, my leadership was thriving.
Thriving. Yeah.
So we did all of those, and the results were clearly
Hmm.
visible for
Hmm.
everyone. And this individual, who at that point in time said he didn't want to report into
Report to
me,
you.
was
Yeah.
reporting to someone else. And I didn't know about all of this, by the
Yeah.
way,
So this was happening all in the
in the
background. Yeah.
background, right?
Yeah.
And I was always thinking, why is it that,
One is
only
left
one
out.
got left
Yeah.
out and
Yeah.
all of that, but I
Yeah.
didn't pay too much attention to it.
Right.
Then he was leaving the organization,
Hmm.
and he said, I made this mistake. I wish I did not.
He told this to
Yeah,
you.
when he was leaving.
Okay.
I wish I did not.
Hmm.
And now when I think about it, I probably would have enjoyed,
Working
being
with
in
you.
this team.
Yeah.
And so there were issues, challenges. It
Hmm.
happens. Those biases that are
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
mind keeps coming up,
Hmm.
right? And but then you fight it again. Be your authentic self.
Yes.
And if you are very genuine to what you want to do, if you're very passionate about what
Hmm.
you want to do, the results will anyway
Will.
show up,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But stand up to it.
Yes.
The
Yes.
next time someone says something like that, I would probably stand up. I
Yeah.
didn't know, otherwise I would have
Yeah.
stood up. So that kind of created, I would say, the seed for something called the Alpha Women Club,
Okay. Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So it was again created because we wanted the women, the girls, to have a voice.
Voice. Yeah.
And we didn't know. We wanted to hear what they felt, what they
Yeah.
talked.
So it was like your thought,
Yeah.
Alpha
So we said
Women.
we'll give it a
Yeah.
name.
The
We're
name in
all-
itself is so powerful.
Isn't it?
Yeah, Alpha Women.
So because I believe we have the power.
Yeah.
We
Exactly.
believe.
Yeah.
It's just us. We need to switch it on.
Right.
You know.
Right.
So and sometimes probably the battery is not there, so we have to charge it.
Yes, exactly.
So and I said, let's create a forum.
Hmm.
For all that, the forum can just be for women to come together and not do anything. Just come talk. But we should
yeah.
have a forum like
Yeah.
that, right? It started off like that, and then we, did such amazing things in that forum. It was also, we created a peer mentorship program. Not just one, the manager mentoring the, team member, but peers could
Peers.
mentor each
Yeah,
other.
exactly.
We laid out process for that.
Hmm.
We created, how it needs to be done,
Yeah.
trained people. And then people then came up and said, you know what, I fear doing this. I'm an interviewer, but I don't know how to do it really nicely.
Okay.
I've been doing it because it's technical questions, right? I can
Yeah.
always ask those
Yeah.
questions. But, I want the interviewee to feel really good about the
Yeah.
interview. Now, how do I do it?
Yeah.
Things like that kind of opened up our minds
Right,
too, saying,
right.
wow, this is like so genuine.
Exactly.
So
yeah.
we created a forum where the women could feel vulnerable. It's okay to put your vulnerable self there and ask what you want.
Yeah. Basically,
Nobody's
open
going to
up.
judge you. Yeah, open up.
Yeah.
So that was magical, I would say,
Yeah.
because the kind of thoughts and the kind of ideas that came up were amazing. We built on it. We kept building on it.
Hmm.
I'm not part of the organization anymore, but I see that the group is still thriving
Wow.
and doing well. So, yeah.
Yeah. How does it work for you, Raji? In all of this which is happening in the background, a day only has 24 hours.
Sure. Yeah, but excellent. Thanks to the excellent support system, I would say.
Yeah.
My mom and my husband was always, these two were always
Okay.
there to support.
Yeah.
But more importantly, and the fact that, education, you need to study well. Education is what can change your
Change.
mindset,
Right.
all of that.
Yeah.
So, after a certain stage, you're not studying for those marks.
Right.
You're studying because you want to understand the subject.
Yeah.
Being in HR, I already had an HR master's in HR. So I said, I want to understand the psyche of people better. Right?
So that is when social.
I did psychology.
Psychology.
Yeah. So, and that kind of changed me as a person, the way I look at people, extreme empathy, and extreme kindness, when what people say, how they do, what they do, and all of that. I think when you study, education has that, it kind of can change
power.
a person. Yeah, it has the power to change. It make you wise, I think, because you gain a lot of knowledge. And then, so 2 years later, COVID stuck. Right? And I was like, this is an amazing time for us to help people.
Exactly.
Right? And overnight HR changed. We had to adapt, right?
Yeah.
We know people would no longer come to office. All onboardings would happen virtually and, everything. So we said, there may be a lot of things that may be happening in the back end. We don't know. What we see is just the video, audio calls. Right? So let's launch programs that will help them. Let's create a forum where they can voice what they're going through, their feelings, their emotions, and all of that. So we created a lot of support groups, and the psychology background really helped understand without judging.
Right.
So because it was, I don't think anyone had the experience of coming out of a pandemic or getting into it. It was new for everyone.
New for everybody.
Yeah. So it really helped, and because I had also done this coaching program. The best thing that coaching did was made me self-aware. I was so totally aware of what I'm doing, how I am responding to situations and all of that. I think it did help a lot of times, especially because, more helpful for leaders, right? Because as a leader, you can't go to your team and say, I'm vulnerable, right? So they feel that you should have all figured it out. Right, and they look up to you.
Yeah. Right?
So you should have the solutions. So, but you need someone to speak to. Right.
I think getting that, I would say, unbiased cushion at the leadership level is not. It's not very accessible to everybody.
Yeah. As a coach, it helped me help them.
Yeah. Exactly.
That was an incredible journey as a coach. I think I continue to do coaching.
So do you do this like as a freelancing or?
Yes, most of the times it's free.
Okay.
And I also am a therapist, so again free. But then with coaching, what happens is you're coaching the other person, but you're learning through it so much. You have those aha moments saying, oh my God, this is something that is strikingly new for me. Right? So I feel, I always tell that as a coach, I'm probably learning a lot more than the coachee. And there are a lot many
that's a very
moments.
Positive outlook, because coaching also comes with its own, I would say, there are moments of doubt on the person who is getting coached.
Absolutely. But because with coaching, what happens is there's no standard approach.
It's
you
like
have a format. Every case
Yeah.
is different, and how the person responds is very different. You probably can never think about, this is the response, and so I'm going to be ready with this response. It can never happen like that. It's, you go through that as a sequential journey, So that kind of opened up who I am as a person. Now, when I look back, I don't think I would have done anything more, other than this. This was probably what I am, what my journey is and all that. Very extremely fulfilling.
Fulfilling, actually.
Yeah, and I hope I continue to add more value.
And inspiring to many others, because it's not just about like doing what is asked to do, but going beyond. And also trying out things like coaching is not something which was asked for you to do.
Yes.
Right? Psychology is in itself a very, I would say, very, very interesting subject. But at the same time, again, coming back to the question, how do you balance it all?
Good question.
Yeah.
I don't think I have figured it all. I don't think. I still struggle.
Yeah.
But then, this fierce professional that I am, that you see in the office and all of that, deep down, I'm a very emotional mother.
Yeah. Yeah, doting,
So,
doting mother actually.
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, I have two beautiful daughters.
Okay.
Again, they are doing something very unique, something that they are passionate about.
Yeah.
Um,
What are they doing, Raji?
so I have two daughters. The older daughter is a doctor,
Oh, wow.
and she's pursuing her postgraduate program now. The younger one wants to be a lawyer,
Oh,
and so
nice.
she's doing her pre-law in the
Okay.
US.
Yeah.
So both have their own identity. They've created an own identity, and as a parent, the only thing I do is to support them, listen to them.
Hmm.
Active listening. I think once you become a mother,
Mother.
you have no choice but to listen. But then
Yeah.
when you do it and we want to be there for them, you just listen with that intent. Sometimes they are just telling you for validation.
Yeah.
They don't want your advice. But then playing those different roles,
Yeah.
depending on,
Yeah,
I think
sometimes you're actually acting as a mom, but sometimes you're a very, I mean, acting as a best friend.
exactly.
Just having
So,
the
and
voice
then
to
I
ear.
think you learn
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Again, there is no SOP to
Right,
become a good
right.
mother.
Yeah.
But then over a period of time, what happens is the way they say ma,
Yeah.
kind of you know what's happening
What's
in
the
the
intent?
background,
Yeah.
right?
That's
So,
so true.
yeah. So I
Yeah.
think balance, I'm still trying to strike a balance. It's never easy. There are times when they want me to listen. At the same time, I have a call, so I can't pay as much attention. I'll come back to them, but then it's always that balance, say, explaining to them that I'll need an hour, I have to focus on
Yeah.
something else, but I'll come back to you, I
Yeah.
will listen to you and all of that. Now they kind of understand because over a period of time, they will also become that.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, like I said, I have not figured it out fully.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to balance. And you don't need to figure it out.
Yeah.
I think you just have to mold yourself based on the situation.
Mm.
There's no standard SOP,
SOP
for being a good mother.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think being the head of people and culture, it comes with a lot of, I would say, high stakes responsibility. It's not just about bringing the talent, but it's also about understanding how they feel and whether they are really thriving to grow. So, what is your philosophy on this, on building this intentional culture overall?
That's
How
a
do you
great
do
question.
that?
That's a great question. I think HR more importantly, but all leaders,
Yeah.
have to strike a balance. So the balance is between emotion and logic.
Hmm. Hmm.
You do certain things that are necessary because the organization wants you to
Yeah.
do. But then you cannot always say that, hey, I'm doing it for someone else, right? You are part of the organization. You are part of the leadership team. So I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
I've had a situation where we had to lay off people,
Hmm.
right? But laying off people is, you have to do it. But how do you do it is more important.
Yeah.
What are you doing to help them, right? Yes, it's a business decision. Yes, everyone understands all of that. But the way you do it makes a big difference.
Yes.
Be extremely respectful towards them because you're not talking to a person, you're not talking to a resource, you're talking to an individual, a human, right? So, first, being extremely respectful about it, being very honest about it is very important. And showing them ways, saying we have to do what we have to do, but we are going to take care of you.
Yeah.
Okay, here's the different ways we are going to take care of you so that you're not lost there.
Yes.
You have enough time to figure out what you want to do next, right? So doing those things, I think, matters a lot. And to answer your question, yes, as a leader, balance is the key. And there's no one way that you can move.
Yeah.
So always thinking from both sides, thinking from the emotion, thinking from logic, because it's important.
Yeah.
You have to make sure the business is thriving too, as well as your people.
Would want to do a rapid fire.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Okay, so let's get the rapid fire started.
Let's start.
Yeah, let's start it. And just be very spontaneous. Don't think. Just answer it.
Shoot.
Okay. One word to describe your leadership style.
Empathetic.
If not HR, what career would you choose?
I think I probably would have been a psychologist.
Yeah, I think that is like very evident.
Yeah.
Hiring or coaching sessions?
Coaching sessions?
That is something which you like more?
Now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Coffee or tea?
Coffee. Hardcore
Hardcore coffee
coffee
fan?
Yeah.
Early bird or night owl?
Early bird. You won't see me processing any information after 9:30.
And how early? Like
5:30?
very okay.
Yeah. 5:30 is very normal.
Yeah. A book you recommend to aspiring people leaders?
To anyone,
Anyone.
watching, I would say is Atomic Habits.
Yeah.
If you've not read it, I think you must read it. It has changed my life. You know, a lot of things that we do, there's a reason why we do it, and there's a right way to do it.
Yeah.
And what it can do to you mentally, I think you'll be amazed at the results. So you must read it.
It's a slow process.
Absolutely.
And then it becomes a part of your life, actually.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it makes such drastic changes in
Changes,
you as a
yeah.
person. I think it's for the better.
Yeah. Your daughters would describe you as?
They call me mommy babes.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm their mommy, but I'm also like, you know, that
Yeah.
young generation
Right,
mom.
right.
Yeah.
The first thing you do to unwind after a busy day?
Relax and spend time with my four-legged son.
You
I have a 10-year-old
Okay.
Labrador
Okay.
who came to me when he was 40 days old.
Oh, okay. And now he's 10 years.
He's 10 now.
Okay.
Yeah, he's like the go-to person if I have to unwind.
Full that cuddling thing and all.
Totally.
Right?
And then he just relaxes me.
Yeah.
You know, so they have this amazing power.
Exactly.
They're magical.
Your go-to comfort food?
I think rice and rasam. Yeah, rasam rice anytime, or even curd rice. Yummy.
Yeah. One thing on your bucket list?
I have done a lot in my bucket list, but yeah, I haven't been to. No, I actually have done most of it. Yeah, I haven't been to Antarctica.
Oh,
That is something that I wanted to do. I couldn't because of my sinusitis.
Yeah.
It is still hanging in there. So probably yes.
Otherwise, you travel a lot.
Quite frequently. I've finished my bungee jumping. You know, I did that paragliding, the undersea diving and all of that. So I've kind of did most of it.
So there's an adventurous feat as well to you.
Extremely adventurous. To an extent, it's a little scary for my husband.
Must be difficult for him to match.
Extremely difficult.
Okay, and the last one. One piece of advice to your younger self.
I think not much, but I could have been a little more rebellious than what I have been.
Okay.
I know I couldn't fit in and I didn't try much. But then there were times when I could have said a no, I did not say a no. So,
yeah, but still you have like kind of, reinvented the mold.
A lot.
You've done it multiple times.
Yeah. But then there were certain times when I could have done it as well. So yeah, that's it. Because I haven't changed a lot as a person. I've just embraced a lot of new things and added to what I am, to my personality. But I think, I'm still that younger self.
Yeah. Okay, so with this, the rapid fire ends. And we'll come to the closing. We are now coming to the closing part of the podcast.
Sure. Yeah.
So before we wrap it up, Raji, I think the one question which is like, I would say is a very hot topic in today's times. Being in the HR space and also like coming up with so much of enriched experience in hiring, managing, and building talent.
Yeah.
What is one piece of advice that you would want to share for someone to get noticed? Because in the I would say in the ocean of resumes and the LinkedIn profiles, it's very tough to basically get noticed, get a call.
Yeah.
What are some of the traits that you would basically suggest?
Yeah, I think even when I interview someone, what I look for is how authentic are they? You know, you have to always bring to anyone that's listening, you know,
Yeah.
not just,
Yeah.
you know, someone that wants to make it big or anyone for that
Yeah.
matter. The advice is, you know, always be truthful to yourself. You know, that's number one. And then, even if it is not the regular path that you're taking, take that plunge. You know, you don't have to have it all figured out.
Yeah.
Take that plunge, figure it out, and over a period of time, build that confidence. You know, I think that is the key takeaway for me. That is what worked for me.
Yeah.
That is the only thing I know. I think being truthful to myself, I think, is the number one. You know, if that is not there, then there's no peace.
Yeah.
Then we won't be able to move forward. So I think that's the best suggestion.
Yeah, because I think you cannot live up to the expectations longer
Yeah.
if it's not a true trait that you're
Within,
showing.
yeah, exactly. Because
if it's made up somewhere, it'll basically
it'll break.
It'll break.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So even if others are saying you did a wonderful job, but if you're not within you, if you think it's not, it's not.
Yeah.
Right. So you set that benchmark and be truthful to yourself. I think that's the key.
Yeah. You're actually a brand in yourself, actually. It's kind of like building your own brand. I think this is a very, I would say, key takeaway for everyone to shine out authentically, not just making it up.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It was such a pleasure talking to you, Raji. The energy is so, I would say it's such a positive vibe here. I was really thinking we should continue, but yeah, we have come to the end. And thank you so much for taking out the time to talk to us, share your incredible journey, and sharing the learnings with us.
Absolutely a pleasure. I think the energy is radiating in this room. Thank you. I loved being here. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Raji's journey is not just about career moves. It's about momentum, conviction, and care. She didn't wait to fit in. She shaped every space she entered. In doing so, she just didn't build a career for herself. She built trust, possibility, and a path for others to rise. If you liked the episode, please like, share, subscribe, and comment to our channel. Until next time, keep dreaming, keep challenging, and keep powering. Thank you.